Hey up everyone, welcome back to the Rugby League History channel. I hope you're all well on this Thursday. Tonight's video is going to be part 6 of the Forgotten Rugby League ground series, and the ground I'm featuring tonight is Lidcombe Oval. Lidcombe Oval, as a lot of people know, was the home ground of Western Suburbs, aka the Magpies. But I'm going to go through the ground's history, talk about some games, and talk about how the ground is today and if it's still being used. So Lidcombe Oval was erected and built in 1933 in the suburb of Lidcombe, and it's built along the train line. So if you're catching the train from, say, Lidcombe and then you're heading west past towards Granville, you'll see it on the right hand side of the train line there. So I'm sure a lot of people in Sydney, when they're commuting to and from work, would see this ground. Now, the first match to be played at the Oval was actually a pre-season match on August the 31st, 1941, and it was between Newtown and Western Suburbs, and Newtown won that game 27 points to 16. The first actual top grade match there, NRL match, was played on July the 15th, 1951, and Western Suburbs beat Parramatta 41 points to 16. Now, back in those days, Western Suburbs were still playing at Pratton Park, but for some reason they played a couple of games there in the 1950s. Now, after the 1966 season, there was just disagreements with Ashfield Council, and there was disagreements with the local residents about Western Suburbs playing at Pratton Park. So Western Suburbs elected to permanently move to Lidcombe Oval at the start of the 1967 season, and they played at Lidcombe Oval between 1967 and 1986. Now, Lidcombe Oval is famous in rugby league for a few reasons. It was famous for the Fibros versus Silvertails, so Western Suburbs against Manly in the mid to late 70s and early 80s. It was also the scene of the famous face slapping in the change room, and it's got some famous images of that, especially Tommy Raudonikis. Western Suburbs actually had a bit of a revival when they played at Lidcombe Oval in that time period. They were minor premiers, and a lot of the opposition clubs hated playing at Lidcombe Oval because it was actually quite an intimidating place to go play. Especially, I've seen interviews with some of the Parramatta players, Brett Kenny, Peter Steele and all that, and all of them have said that they used to hate going to Lidcombe Oval in the late 70s and early 1980s because it was such a tough place to play, and the fans were right on you, because in those days, because the crowds were so big at some matches, they used to let people sit around the perimeter of the touchline, so that the people would be right on you. The final ever match, though, to be played, the final ever top grade game, NRL game, to be played at Lidcombe Oval was on August the 31st, 1986, where Western Suburbs lost 8 points to 6 against Eastern Suburbs. Because the following year, Western Suburbs moved permanently out to their third home ground in their history, Campbelltown Sports Ground, where they've played ever since. The biggest ever win or biggest ever scoreline at the Oval come in 1974, when Western Suburbs beat Belmead 62 points to 5. In total, there was 258 top grade matches played at the Oval, and Western Suburbs, they had around about a 50% winning percentage there by the time that they started and by the time that they left. So they had some good years there, but they also had some bad years there in the 1980s when the club finished with a couple of wooden spoons. After Western Suburbs left Lidcombe Oval, in the 2000s and 2010s, the ground was become the home ground of the Auburn Warriors, who were a team that played in the Ron Massey Cup and the local Parramatta Canterbury competition. They were liquidated in, I think, at the end of 2017 due to Salim Mahaji, that property developer slash, I think he was trying to be a politician. He took a lot of money from the club and he promised to invest money into the club, but it never happened. But in the last few years, Western Suburbs have actually retained the Oval, and they've used it as this event called Back to Lidcombe, where they play a couple of home matches there a year. And over the last 2 years, they've played games at the Oval and they've been broadcast by Channel 9. So these matches have been featured on television. Also, Lidcombe Oval's hosted a couple of NRL trial matches. I think the last one that I heard of was West Tigers up against Manly. I think that was about 2 years ago. They played a trial match there before the season started. If you're in Sydney, like I've said with a couple of other grounds, go to Lidcombe Oval. It's a part of Rugby League history. Hopefully next year there's going to be some matches played there after this whole coronavirus thing ends. So if you're in Sydney or you have a weekend off, I strongly recommend that you go to Lidcombe Oval. It's an experience. I've been there myself, and it's easy to get to. Train lines just down the road, and yeah. So that concludes my video for the Forgotten Rugby League Grounds Part 6. Tonight was Lidcombe Oval. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, click that like button. If you're enjoying the content that I'm making, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell so you get an email when I do a new video. But as always, everyone, enjoy the Rugby League tomorrow night, and I'll catch you all later. Ta-ra.